Okay, good morning. So today we're going to start by going through the change in compete.with.code.uk because we move on from the 20 kind of getting started Python challenges to the preparing for the paper 2 challenges. So you are no longer a beginner. We're to the point now where you can cope with and start preparing for the actual assessment. So well done for all of your hard work so far. The most valuable thing that we do are the extension activities. So I want to guide you through what this looks like. I've given you 3 challenges to work through. And this week is episode 1. It's just preparing for the first question. Now, there are 6 questions in your paper 2 exam. Question 1 is always the easiest. Question 6 is always the hardest. You shouldn't feel bad about finding question 6 difficult at this stage. They're designed to be difficult. But question 1s, I think you'll find quite nice and easy. Let's have a look and see. So here's the first question 1 example. You will get this on paper. You'll get a traditional question paper, that guides you through what to do. But then on screen, you'll have a digital copy of the PLS, the programming language subset, that you can search through. And you'll get given code on screen that you can run, you can edit, you can debug, you can test. So question 1's quite nice and simple. You get given code that you've got to understand. It's a little bit like the K activities of the K Prize. There might be some gaps to fill in, or there might be some questions to answer. For example, it says, using the q01.py file that you're given, can you find the identifier of a constant using code? And the questions written on paper are almost always the same as the comments written down here. So let's have a look. Can you write the identifier of a constant? Oh, I've started this already. Let's go back to the beginning, go full screen, and see. Write the identifier of a constant. Well, what is a constant? It's just the name of a value that doesn't change when the program runs. So that's the name of a constant. I'll plop that in here, and we should get the points for it. Now, in your actual on-screen exam, it doesn't use compete.with.code.uk or create.with.code.uk because you're not allowed internet access. So you won't get instant feedback in your actual exam. This is a practice. Let's see again. I'm not going to do all of them. Name one parameter used in the code. So we look at this. We have a procedure or a function. It looks like a function to me because it returns a value. It has 2 parameters. We can take any one of those and plop that in here. Great. So that's one style of question 1. I won't do all of them. I'll maybe have a look at the third one. This time, what have we got to do? It says, can you import a library on original line 6, which is required by the code? Let's have a look. Line 6. Yeah, if we run it, it's got something missing. We need to carry it on. Well, import what? Well, you can have a look at the PLS, programming language subset, and see which modules you're supposed to know about. Or we can have a look at the code and think, it's trying to do random, and it doesn't know how to do random until we import it. So it's just filling in the blanks. You get marks for all of the things that you've got in here. It's the easiest way to get your points on compete.with.code.uk, and it prepares you for the on-screen test. Later this year, your Year 10 mock exam will be an on-screen test. I'm not expecting everyone to be able to do question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Some of you will be able to, but I am expecting everybody to be confident at least questions 1 and 2, and most of you for questions 3. Question 4 is where the challenge kicks in. But we can rise to that challenge. We don't panic about tests. We prepare for tests. All right, so let's have a look at this week's challenge. We're on CT21, which is all about validation. I'm going to go through the slides. Validation is checking if things are valid. So we want to understand when we'd use those, why we'd use those, and the different types of validation. So particularly a presence check, a length check, a range check, and a lookup check. So we know how to make stuff interactive because we can ask questions with input. Problem is, sometimes we want to check and see what the user's typed in and limit what they can type in. So we do that with validation. We always need to check and handle when the user's typing something that is not expected, and we don't want our program to crash. That's why we do validation. It's the number one reason why badly designed programs crash is because of a lack of validation. So let's go through some examples here. First of all, a range check. If you want somebody to enter in a number between 1 and 10, what happens if they put in 0? What happens if they put in 11? Length check. If you want someone to put in a password that's 8 or more characters, what happens if they put in 5 characters? What happens if they put in 500 characters? Presence check. If you want someone to put in an email address and they leave it blank, what happens? So it's just different types of check for what the user types in. And then if there's only maybe 3 values, are you going to have a game that does paper, rock, scissors, and you want them to type in one of those options, paper, rock, scissors, and nothing else, then you'd look up what they type in, from a list and compare with those options. And that's it, really. How do we do them? I don't think this is helpful, all that useful. We've done this already in Python. Here we go. How do we do them? So we have a range check to double check that it's over 11. We've got here another length check, a range check. It has to be over 3 characters, 3 or more characters. This is a presence check. Have they typed in anything at all? Is the password completely empty? I'm going to pause and give a class charts positive if you can tell me why this version is better than this version. So spot the difference. Why is this better than that? Yeah, so we said that this is better because it uses a while loop. The first version would only ask once. You type in your age once. If you don't put in a sensible range, then it just doesn't let you type it in again. This time, you keep on asking whilst you put in a number less than or equal to 11. Okay, let's have a look at activity 1 before we go through any more examples of Python. Remember, the types of check that we should be talking about here, I'm not going to fill them in just yet. I'll just put a list on here. We could have a presence check. We could have a lookup check. We could have a range check. We could have a length check. All of these are the ones that you could choose from for a type of check required. So let's go for the first one. A phone number must be given. That sounds like a presence check to me. Why? Because it's either present or it's not present. It's either there or it's not there. A valid input would be the school phone number, 01904 633 300, I think. Don't know. Invalid input might be something that is not a phone number, but you've got to be careful because 999 is a valid phone number. Invalid input might be Bob. I don't know. Something like that. So you choose. Is it just checking if it's there? Is it checking if it's in a particular list of only things that are valid? Is it within a particular range? Or is it a certain number of characters? You choose. So now we've got some code to look at and identify what type of check we've got. So let's just remind ourselves which we've got. I'll pop this on here so that we can refer back to it. These are the types of checks that we're looking at this lesson. Okay, we ask a question. Is it greater than 6 or is it less than 1? That to me makes me think it's a range check because it's within a minimum and a maximum value. I'd like you to go through each of these and just write down what type of validation check it is, please. So let's do one more example. Let's look at the last one. We're saying we're asked a question, enter your login. We store the answer in a variable called login, and we check and see if the length of the login is not equal to 6, we say invalid. So is it a presence check? No. Is it a length check? I think it is because it counts how many characters there are using len. So this, I think, is a length check. Activity 3 is very similar, but we go the other direction. We say what type of validation we want, but we have to fill in the gaps. It's a little bit harder here. So we're going to need some compete with code.uk, create with code.uk to help us out. Let's pop this over here. This over here. Right, let's try. yikes, what's happening here? Sadly, these are pictures that you can't copy and paste, which is a little bit irritating. Sorry about that. So you can try and do it without the code, but I think that's going to be more challenging for you. Alright, so it says it's a length check. We've already found out what a length check is because we've got examples above. So, I mean, this is a silly example, isn't it? Because you're supposed to be seeing if the user can spell the number 5. So if all we knew was just this, we'd probably guess and say name is not equal to FIVE. But that's not the question here. We're trying to do validation with a length check. So that's not what we're trying to do here. So if the length of what the user types in is not equal to FIVE, that's 4 letters, that's what we want. So spell the number 5, FIVE. Yeah, we don't have to extend it to say correct. It should just say invalid if you have the wrong number of letters on here. Let's do one more as an example. I'll probably do the harder one, the lookup on here. So remember, a lookup check gives us... Oh, it's going to be impossible for me to explain this whilst I'm typing, so you might have to be patient. Let's see. A lookup check, you've got a list of valid answers. Looks like we've got 2 valid flavors. Zoom out a little bit so that we can fit it all in. The user's allowed to type in C or V. If they type in one of those things, then it's valid. If not, then we say it's invalid. So what's the logic here? If the flavor is equal to C, or the flavor is equal to V, well, that's the opposite of what we want. Because if I put C in, it thinks it's invalid. And if I put Q in, it thinks it's valid. So that's the wrong way around. So I could say, if it's not equal to C, and it's not equal to V, that's going to be better. So there we go. C is valid. V is valid. But anything else is invalid. That's what we're looking for. There's an alternative way of doing this as well. We could, if we want, say flavors. And then we put in a list in here. We've got C as a valid flavor and V as a valid flavor. Which makes it a little bit easier now, because we can say if our flavor, singular, individual, is in flavors, plural, list. I think this is the wrong way around. So if it is in the list, we want it to be valid. So we can say if it's not in the list. Let's try this. So C is valid. Anything other than C or V is invalid. Now, I know this is a bit of an odd way of writing it, so can we do it the other way around? Can we say flavor not in flavors? Does that work? Yeah, it does. So you can choose which way round makes the most sense for you. Okay. Also worth bearing in mind, Python does not require you to have the parentheses, the brackets, around your Boolean expression. What on earth does that mean? Boolean means true or false. Expression means combination of variables and operators and things. So basically a question that is answered by true or false. A yes-no question. Either flavor is in flavors or it's not. That is going to be true or false. Python doesn't need the brackets. Edexcel wants you to put the brackets. So I'm going to put the brackets in. So you'll notice, my apologies, 3B doesn't have the code on here. I'm not entirely sure why. My mistake. In order to find the code, you'll find it in half term 4 on the VLE, activities and homework, CT21, and you can see it on here, 3A, 3B. Oh, 3A student, has that got the code? That's nice. That'll save you some work. So instead of typing them all out, You should be able to see that here. It's going to open up in Thonner. You can just fill in the gaps. Then you can just screenshot it in. That'll save you loads of time. 3B. That's the code that you've got. Now, we were talking about the on-screen paper at the start of the lesson. This is probably a question 3 style question. So a lot harder than the one we've done at the start. Question 1 is just identifying and filling in the gaps. Question 2 might be debugging or a bit more filling in the gaps. Question 3 is often kind of reordering. As in, you run it and it doesn't work because the sequence is wrong. You've got to reorder them. How do we reorder them? Well, you don't copy and paste because then you've got multiple copies. You cut and paste, Control X. And then let's think, what are we trying to do here? What type of validation? Does it say? No. Well, we want to choose a flavor. So let's ask the question at the beginning. Choose a flavor. Oh, it also tells us what options we've got. So maybe we want that at the beginning. The menu equals. We probably want to display the menu before we choose a flavor. Did I copy that? I don't know. Oh, this is why it's so important to use cut rather than copy, because you get confused. Let's try again. So I think we want to say what the options are first. Control X, Control Home to go to the beginning, paste it in. Then we want to display the options, Control X, Control V. Then we want to give instructions to say, please choose from those options. We want to ask the question. And I guess we want to ask the question repeatedly, don't we? I don't know. Let's think. This is a while loop, so I need something indented. Right, these are the options that are valid. So if I'm going to check and see if the choice is in that list of options, I need to define those at the beginning. What can we do now? So it looks like we're doing the same thing again here. Or have we actually asked the question yet? The choice equals input choice. That looks almost the same as here. I'm going to do the most verbose one first. Probably want to ask before we do that. Okay, choose from the menu, choose a flavor. Display the options first. There we go. And then why would we ever set that to an empty string? Let's just put it at the top. Don't know. Let's see if it works. Invalid syntax. On line 3. Yeah, why on earth have we got brackets in there? Okay, so let's try it. Let's try something valid. It works. Let's try something invalid. And it keeps asking until we try something valid. Nice. It works. So the top tip is lots of trial and error, lots of logical thinking. Control X to cut. Control V to paste. Home to go to the beginning of the line. End to go to the end of the line. Shift end or shift home lets you select. Obviously, you can do that with your mouse, but I find the keyboard much more accurate. Lots of practice and you'll get there. So please upload your CT21 to Half Term 4 Algorithms and Programming 4. Thanks for your hard work.